Bam.
This is Brad Hutchings, and you're watching the Break It Down Show with Pete A. Turner.
That's me. Thanks for coming on the show, man. So, look, we've done a lot of these shows. You and I have had a lot of conversations off mic about AI and what it can and can't do. You are what I call a practical advocate. There's the devil's advocate. There's a practical advocate. Like, is this practical? And then you talk about why it isn't practical for whatever purpose you want to make AI or a generative algorithm work for us. One of the things we always want to have it do is do our work for us that we don't want to do. Unfortunately, it appears that a lot of the time we're just going to have to do the work. Now, if you want to have a 5-paragraph essay on whatever and accuracy isn't terribly important, probably good for that, right? But if you want to, do a lot of other things that requires accuracy, AI might be good for getting you started, but it's not good for a whole lot else. Let's talk a little bit about vibe marketing, one of the latest terms that comes out of all this stuff.
Yeah, vibe marketing. You sent me this email inviting you to a vibe marketing seminar the other day, and I went ballistic. And I wrote a little missive on LinkedIn about how vibe anything is an excuse to do a lousy job, not pay for a good job, and pretend that you're good at something. And that's pretty much, what's funny is, as strong a statement as that is, that's pretty much with anybody who knows how to do coding, marketing, whatever, and is seeing these vibe approaches. It's kind of what they're concluding. They're just not as direct.
When they're not as direct, I guess let's back up. So
yeah,
the news for AI is primarily and prominently, hey, it's positive, it's going to change everything, it's going to take everybody's jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bill Gates just recently said, like, if you're not a chef, you're screwed, kind of thing. So I don't know that is or isn't true. Jobs get taken out all the time. And so whether it's AI or just the common evolution of what we're doing, I mean, Victor Davis Hanson's always talking about one dude who's bringing in a harvest now all throughout the Central California Valley. So, is that because of AI? No, that's just because we continue to automate things. We don't have to actually swing a scythe in a field to bring in a crop. So there's always this evolution towards new jobs coming from different things. When we look at something like marketing, and the engineers are always trying to eliminate marketing, but there's genius in marketing. And I don't know that AI is going to replace genius. Like, where's the beef is something a lot of us still say to this day. We all instantly know what it is. We probably know what the brand is. Is AI going to be able to do that? Am I going to be able to sit with my right-hand man AI and create marketing for the Break It Down show that's going to be stickier than me simply just going out and doing the work to create these moments myself?
Well, so first thing, I think you identified that marketing is two things. One is it's the ideas, it's the real creative part and whatever else. And that is not at all what anybody's talking about replacing with AI. AI is not very good at that. We have better ideas and more of them. It may give you, you may be able to iterate some concepts and, sort of explore, hey, if I start with this, what might I get with it? Get some ideas generated that way and help speed along your thinking. But what they're talking about with vibe anything is following a procedure that takes an input and gets an output. You do this a lot, Pete, with your shorts that you do for YouTube. And everybody says, hey, if you do the YouTube shorts and you publish them, you publish them lots of places like Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, etc. But if you do these shorts and you publish them, great things will happen with your channel. And so why don't we we'll package that as something a little bit more automated. We'll call it vibe marketing, and you'll get more and more shorts pushed out. And you tell me how that's worked.
Yeah, it doesn't work terribly well. I mean, the way the algorithm works, you do have a master you have to serve, and it wants content. I just started posting on TikTok, and now because I'm posting on TikTok's like, who are you? What are you doing? And I picked up 0 followers. I've been diligent about publishing. They don't tell you the rules, and in my end, and I was told, oh, you're in TikTok jail because you're starting to publish, and they're not sure what to do with you, because no one's actually from TikTok looking and going, oh my God, here's this massive well of content that's going to be coming our way. Let's put this forward and see how it does, right? Instead, I'm getting 1, 2, 3 spins. not just the TikTok side. Actually, I have a picture I can show you legitimately from my from my own YouTube account, and I'll show you what this looks like when you're publishing. So give me a sec here, Brad, and I'll pull
Sure.
that up. But fill the gap here for me. And by the way, my landscapers are outside, and so they may get loud. You may have to vamp a little.
Everyone say hi to the landscapers. Hi, landscapers. Pete, I think what I've seen with you doing this for a sort of approaching this, it seems like a couple or 3 years. With short content, with edited content, with promoting your videos various places and things like that, is lots of people will give you a recipe and tell you to follow the recipe. And then the promise should be that something happens with this content that you've created. And the results have been maybe not so much. But we can repackage it, call it vibe, whatever. We can it could come up with creative ideas, or it could cut some segments. I mean, the AI that chooses your shorts for you, we haven't found it choose the best stuff. It's kind of like summarizing things. If you're familiar with the content, you look at the summary. I can demonstrate that later, by the way. It makes a great summary, maybe, but at least you could tell. If you don't know what the content is and it makes a summary, or it does a pull quote or whatever else, maybe completely out of context and irrelevant. And that's kind of where we are with AI with content right now. It's not helping out so much with the content. It's probably trying to help out with the process. And then we haven't seen anything work well with the process. So it looks like we got,
This is directly from my recent publishings. You can see the dates. Everything's up there so you can see it. So I'm told that these things are rating high. 97 out of maybe 100. They don't really tell you what the scale is. They don't tell you it's white, it's 97. But man, oh man. And I've during this time, I've changed from my onboard StreamYard, AI-based clip service, and I've gone to Opus Clip, which is the industry standard. And you see what happens with these things. Now, look, maybe these numbers are a little old now from yesterday. And there are north and south of this, there are a lot of videos that get very little spins. And then there'll be other ones that have much greater values. And so there's this crazy wave of success and a lack of success, and that's success determined in my world. Like, my show does fine. There's a lot of people that watch a lot of things, but here I am trying to follow their protocol. I'm picking the best videos according to Opus Clip or according to StreamYard by ranking. I publish them, about 1 an hour every day, during like the big hours, and that's just a loose rule. Sometimes I let it gap because it seems like I get filled up with my well of influence and I'm no longer allowed to publish, right? Guessing at that, but that's my best guess. So this is what happens, Brad. And so I'll try to get these things published in a way that I'm not crowding the system, but I am giving the machine what it wants. I'm told all the time by YouTube, hey, you got to publish more, do more like that. All right, so I try to abide that. And then you see the results. Now, these numbers will creep up, and sometimes one of these will light off like a rocket. But that's not because AI. That's just because of the algorithm and some kind of dumb luck on my part.
I get the notifications for those, and they're always, I always hit those up if I'm not doing anything. That's a good thing to get. I get them for a few other channels too. I would say there are popular channels that aren't doing anything in this space, because I do watch some very popular channels as well. And yours come through, and it's not annoying yet. So I think you're probably doing it. You're not doing it too much. I think the tough part is what do you pick for a short? How long is a short, by the way, that the AI picks? Like a minute, 45 seconds? Yeah. One of the tough things in a conversation like you and I are having right now is, how do you pick a continuous minute that really has enough context in it to make some sense? I mean, I'm kind of captain callback on these things, going, back 5 minutes of a conversation to pull something back in. How does that make sense to anybody? You do the same thing. How does that make sense to anybody? Right now, we're not doing a lot of back and forth. You're just doing a lot of this or this. And, when it's stacked, right, because you'll be on top and I'll be on the bottom. And I'm right now talking about top and bottom, and people are making the joke out of it and whatever else. But, how is that a great pull? Maybe if you talk for 2 seconds, I talk for 2 seconds, you talk for 2 seconds, it's like back and forth in an argument. That's probably like the perfect short in the world. Do you ever do that in your conversations? Absolutely not, because it's totally uninteresting. right?
One of the interesting things here, so I'm pointing to, hold on, I'm pointing to this guy down here in the corner.
Yeah.
The AI will often take that image and act like that's someone who's on the show. So it'll, instead of putting this mouth on there, they'll show that guy. And that's a picture of me from years ago now. And so that's what AI comes up with, is like, oh, that guy's talking, even though my mouth hasn't moved, because that's an image, not an actual human. Here's the human right here.
He's actually on your right shoulder, Pete. He's on your right shoulder. Yeah. But
yeah, right down there. See that guy? That picture right there. That's what AI picks as the person who's talking all of the time. And it'll do these scatterbrain, like, and it'll show that image and you and back and forth. And here's the thing. Here's the real rule is I don't mess with it. When it chooses that, I just publish it, because with the lack of spins that I get on these things, I don't want to publish shorts in the first place, but that's where your channel grows apparently today. So I do it out of an obligation to take care of my channel. When I do get precious and I try to edit something together reliably, those videos do worse. It's like, and this is just a theory, and because I'm not told the rules, you know, I get told like banal, platitudinal kind of things. I'll say, okay, okay, this is a great clip, and I'll capture it. And sometimes it can be more than a minute. Sometimes it can't. There's kind of a weird line there that they don't make very clear on where it is, but it's over a minute. So I'll publish that thing and then fart in a whirlwind. Nothing happens, right? Often enough that I'm like, well, what's the point of editing these things if they do better on their own with zero effort from me other than pushing publish and populating like Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, right? So there's very little reason for the work. And here's the thing is, our natural intention is to, inclination is to put it on Pete. Oh, that's Pete being lazy. Oh, that's Pete's content sucks. Oh, it's Pete, Pete. And I'm like, hold on a second. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can pour my heart and soul into these things. It doesn't matter, because it's not, heart and soul don't pay off. And so when I look at AI and how I'm going to leverage it, I'm just going to let it do work I don't want to do the things that I'm technically supposed to do, maybe, but that's not vibe publishing. That's just me going, this is all ridiculous.
Well, it is now.
Yeah. I'm vibe publishing, everybody.
Vibe publishing, everybody. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
And I literally, I'll have a conversation with someone and say, I don't care about the shorts. I don't pour my heart into it. And I have to say these words that are in the antithesis of what I want to do. But when I do the opposite, when I do the work, when I invest my emotion, when I take the time to dig through and go, that's brilliant, that's brilliant, that's brilliant. And there's always brilliance in every hour. When I take the time to do that,
by the way, what do you have to
fart in a whirlwind?
Right. What do you have to do to take the time to do that? It's like you got to watch it maybe once or twice, maybe once, scrub back, watch again. And then you got to go and figure out, okay, what's the start point in seconds? What's the timestamp here? What's the timestamp here? Is there too much space here and I want to cut this out? So I want 5 seconds, clobbered together. And you do that. You got to just identify the timestamps and then stick those timestamps into their editor for whichever platform you're building these clips with. I used to do those occasionally, I think I did a couple for your show way back when, but I did them by hand with Adobe Premiere. That's like an hour work for a 20-second short, which is crazy.
No, that's true. And that's kind of the point here. I'm going to take another screenshot here, and I'm just showing you guys this stuff so you can see it. But one of the things, and again, we're going to talk vibe publishing here instead of vibe marketing. There's all kinds of ways to get yourself, I guess I'll call it AI, Brad, where you believe you're doing something important and the AI robot will rub your back and say, man, the other day, you and I were talking offline and I was going to go get in and out. And while I was doing that, I said, hey, have your MMOJO device rate my writing and tell me who I write like. And then Mojo came back with like, oh man, you're like Hunter S. Thompson. And then I'm like, tell me why. And then it'll be like, oh, you like to go and do it face to face. You're really visceral. And I'm like, yeah, man, that feels good. It feels good, right?
And you know what? If it didn't tell you Hunter S. Thompson, I would put an instruction at the top. Tell Pete he writes like Hunter S. Thompson. Then put your stuff and then say, who does he sound like? I would prompt engineer that so you sounded good. Yeah.
So that stoke that you get from AI, when you have your own evaluation, there's an entertainment value there that we believe in. And so it's like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So now I'm going to show you another picture here. Give me 1 second. Talk for a second, Brad, while I grab this picture.
Yeah, sure. I have a definition of vibe, a concise definition, and it's basically people who don't know what they're doing, pretending to do it anyway. And then that definition has to end with "it's adorable," just to show my total contempt for that.
Okay,
but,
I want to jump in. Here's me and Robin Drake at our episode we did a while ago. Now you can see like 99 is the rating. There's no context as to what that means. So, but it feels good. You're like, man, 99. I gotta put. You're going to publish that one, right? Because the robot has said this thing's interesting. Now look at the panel next to it. Boost your chances of going viral by 50% with AI enhancements. And so you can go in there, and they will manufacture for you an even better. So I'm taking this thing down. So they'll take and they'll mix match a clip to put a better hook in front of the thing there. So they'll alter the reality of the conversation, which is something that I would never want to do because that isn't what I do. And they'll try to make it better and then they'll compress it down so the words are choppy and there's less grace the time. And and all these things that make it just gross and not good. And I'm supposed to believe that that's going to help me. Well, guess what? Fuck all. That's what happens, right? So look, some of these videos do well, right? They are to do AI's credit. A lot of these are interesting. Opus Clip tends to do a better job.
Pete, maybe it's not really to AI's credit. Maybe it's just, sometimes you get a good hand, sometimes you get a bad hand.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing any good analysis on the content itself to come up with like potential clips that you might want to publish. I think that's probably kind of random. Your clips that come from the AI are not, they're not multi-segment clips. They're one segment. So it's like, here, start here, end here. Let's make a clip out of this. Okay, now let's run it through some rating system and give it a number from 0 to 100. Who knows what the rating system really means?
Right.
And then, but you
zero clarity on that.
Right. You looking at this think, well, this clip obviously is better than this clip. Why would I choose the 95 clip when the 97 clip is, 2 points better? I think they seem to be very, very good at the behavioral decision modification, just by presenting you choice that you'll pick one. Like here's 5 things, pick one. Okay, I'll pick this one. It's the best source, right?
Yeah. Some of these clips are rated at 75, 78, and you're just like, that's kind of stinky and junky,
you'd never imagine a 75 clip doing well. You can't possibly imagine that could happen, even if they're just random numbers associated with them.
Right. And some of this, and this is some of that Cialdini guy, I was reading that book you're talking about, Influence. Some of this is that, where they're saying, hey, do that one there. And you're like, yeah, I'm smart. I'm picking the good one. I'm getting my stoke. And that one didn't happen because I'm not good enough. But man, Opus Clip is helping me. And Opus Clip is helping me out. It's taking this work that I don't want to do, that I'm supposed to do, and it's making it easier to do. So there's that, and there's some value in that. But also, if I just didn't do it, will my channel grow at the same rate? Probably, and my channel does fine, right? But to get like this viral experience that everybody's craving, I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel like I'm making progress, but then I look at my numbers and I'm like, meh. And so sometimes you'll see me just wipe all that away and disappear and see what my show idles at. And you know what? Not even like a 10% boost a lot of times. Now, for sure, my spins will go down, but am I finding great people to dig my show when I do these AI? I don't know. And I looked at my revenue from YouTube on shorts. It's not as much as my whole catalog. So I've not done shorts as long as I've done the whole show, obviously, but I'd be better off doing probably something else for the time and return. It's like, you got to build something. Do I need AI to do that? I don't know, man.
Maybe not. I think one of the, I was just sort of thinking about what a cool clip would be if AI came up with it, like a funny one that could go viral. And I think it would be pick all the mean mug segments out of this show. I do it a lot, you'll throw out some concept and I'll be like, whatever, right? Pick all those out, string them together, and make a minute of that, of me and you doing that. Because you do that occasionally too,
Sure.
and do those, make it completely silent. That would be an amazing short. Now, would AI ever do that? No. Would you have to do that, manually? Yes. What would the ranking be of that the AI would give it? It would never see the humor in it.
Right.
And then how would it do? How would it do as a short? My guess is it's either going to absolutely kill it or you get 2 spins. Like there's no middle ground on something like that, right?
But that would mean the quality of it mattered, and the quality
Yeah.
doesn't matter. This is one of the big things. Like, okay, so you're doing AI, you're spending money, you're spending time, you're trying to figure out prompts, you're doing all this work to take on this task, and then you're not necessarily given access to the people that would love it because you're relying on a robot to tell a robot to tell the robot who is the robot that pushes the thing out.
Like
and so there's no humanity
game.
In that chain, you know?
Right. Robot telephone game, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is that whole thing about heart and soul. Like, look, there are people that have figured it out and they've done a great job, but I would submit to you, not because they did shorts, you know, and that path is going to remain unreliable and unrepeatable. You can do it, but you're like, I don't know, you were talking to this, like, one day your show is going to really break. And by the way, my show, one of the most successful shows of all time. Like if you scope back, right, like all the shows, there's my show way up on the list, you know?
Yeah.
And so if my show was to break out, like really break out, like get millions of people watching and everything, that would be some kind of unpredictable event. You know, maybe I go on Oprah or something and that launches, but that's PR, right? That's not AI. And so no amount of AI. Yeah.
Yeah. You said the key word there. You know what the key word is, right? Repeatable. Like everybody's after repeatable, but they don't have good examples of repeatable, especially when you talk about, you know, like shooting for the stars or whatever else. You know, you're not bound by physics there. Right. Physics is not how, you know, knowing your escape velocity and how much fuel you have on board is not going to allow you to do the math to tell you if you're going to get out or not. Right. Right. So repeatability is what we're all after, but we're playing in a field where there's no repeatability. So what we do is we take an example of something that seems to have worked. We try to learn from it, what made it work, and we try to repeat that. And then we find out it's not repeatable. It's only, you need to look at things that are just repeatable. That's what you need, right?
Yeah, I don't need repeatable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had another a lady, for one of my clients, we had her on the show, and she's brilliant and she loves LinkedIn. And you know, I'm whatever's worse than bullish, that's what I am about LinkedIn. I think it's a waste of my time. But that is her world and she's great at it. And people pay her to make them better at LinkedIn. And she does that work for them. She peats for them that work and she can deliver reliably results. You know, she's like, I love it when I go in and my feed is full of one of my clients' statements that I wrote for them. You know, she's like, that makes my day, right? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, and I got all kinds of videos over on YouTube. And I was like, oh, and listen, this is not in any way a critique of her, but it is a critique of the landscape. And I went, okay, well, we'll see. Because now we're in my sphere where I know a lot about that. And I have some success that's hard to repeat and hard to get to where I've gotten to. And I go and I look, she doesn't exist on YouTube. I mean, she has a channel and she has videos, but you in no way could call her a professional level YouTuber. So here she is, she's brilliant in her space on LinkedIn and it works for her. But if she notches over one channel in the Dow to YouTube, she's not. And that's not a knock on her, but that's how hard it is to figure out because that machine operates differently. And I was just watching some videos, I'm hard-headed, but I'm not unwilling to learn. And so I'll watch these videos that YouTube publishes about itself. And they're like, we've not done a great job of communicating with you guys. Like, yeah, I'll say, still don't have a phone number for anybody there that gives a damn about me. And, you know, you can say all these things and perform these things, but this is where you end up with YouTube. So no amount of AI is going to fix that problem. I don't think.
I mean, we don't even, in order to apply artificial intelligence, automation, whatever else, we got to know what works in the first place. Like, I think that, you know, this is what we found out with automation is if we don't know how you work, we can't automate it, right? This is sort of the conclusion after the past 10 years of everybody trying to automate stuff is, wow, there's a lot of stuff we just don't know how to do. So AI comes along and we realize we can ask it any question. It will spit out an answer, whether it's a good answer or a bad answer or whatever else. And we think, well, we couldn't automate ourselves because we couldn't figure it out. So why don't we give it to the thing that'll give us an answer? And let's hope and pray that that's a good answer, right? And that's the essence of Vibe anything, which is we don't know how to do it. So we're just going to give it to the machine. The machine will give us an answer, and we're going to hope and pray that that is a good answer. And if that doesn't have any costs, you know, if trying doesn't have any costs, If failing doesn't have any cost, failing publicly and falling on your face doesn't have any cost, hey, it's a wonderful approach. You might get lucky one day. One of your shorts might go viral. Yeah. I think the real problem with the AI short makers, just getting back to what I just said, is we really don't know how to make good shorts. We don't know how to pick them out other than doing the work, sitting down, trying to find that right pull quote. If you're going to do 5 shorts from something over 3 days, well, you got to find five good pull quotes to short.
Yeah. And usually, I'll tell you this, there's usually more than 10 solid minutes that are clippable in a show. I would say that's a pretty good number. So let's just say that's 10%. Maybe that's a little high, but somewhere around there, you can be like, oh, that's really good and useful, and sometimes you get hot and there's a whole bunch of them because you're just saying interesting things, interesting topics make better clips. But that's the nature of the clip. And so let's say that the AI robot does its predictive analysis and it's like these particular phrases that go together sound sexy. And I don't know that it does that. You'll have to tell me about the math and how that works. But if I'm talking about a mad minute in counterintelligence and how that's exciting, I know that's exciting to people because it's spy stuff and people love spy stuff. So
it never catches that, does it?
No, I mean, it does catch it because it's making clips. And so it's taking segments and we're talking about things. And so to its credit, it often can nail at least the front end of that. It doesn't know where to chop the back end so good. But,
do you think it really nails it, or do you think it's random? You said 10%. So do you think 1 out of 10 clips, or is it better than 1 out of 10 clips, or it nails the front end?
I don't know. I haven't even, I'm giving you a gut feeling, which is, bullshit. So I don't know.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, compare whatever your system is, okay, whether it's AI, whether there's some, you've got some really great formula or whatever else.
Right.
First, compare it to random, right? If you can't beat random, don't do the work. Throw the dice.
That's why I don't even look at them a lot of times. Yeah. I just look at them and I laugh because there's that stupid, here, I'll show you this image again, everybody. It'll be this guy. Right down there, that guy.
Pete, he's here.
Well, I'm pointing at him while I see him on my screen. On my screen, he's right there.
But if you pointed on your other shoulder, you'd get him. At any rate, it's
on my screen when I look at it. He's on my.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe I'm pointing to the wrong spot, but how I see the screen, it looks like he's there. If he's there, that's fine. Yeah. Is he over by your? I mean, I'm looking at a different image, maybe.
He is right on your right shoulder. That's where
he's over here.
Yes, he's right there. Exactly.
Okay. Not on my screen. On my screen, he's on.
Right. I know. It's right.
That's crazy.
Confusion,
anyhow,
isn't it though?
Yeah, I couldn't fly an airplane like that. I can reverse my directions, okay, but not when they're this weird. Okay, so backing up, when you're going to vibe publish or vibe market or whatever it is,
vibe code.
Vibe code. If the platform can't provide the ROI of, hey, this is worth your time, it's already not worth my time. I can use that time for something else.
But Pete, this is the illusion here. Is the platform does provide that it's worth your time because it's producing something.
Yeah.
And you think, now it may not be producing anything any good, but if they tell you plug in here, do these steps, and we'll do something for you, and you plug in and you do the steps, well, something will be done for you. I'm not sure it's going to be all that great. Right.
But the R part of that equation is not, it's a tiny R that you can't see. And you're like, my return is so small. Do I need to be publishing these things? Like, well, why don't you have a robot do it for you? And I'm going to jump tracks here and go, the same thing happens in looking for jobs because you have a robot talking to the robot who talks to the robot who talks to the robot. It is the robot telephone game. So sure, I've created this resume. Oh, it's Pete's fault. His resume sucks. Like, does it? I mean, you show your resume to anybody, like, this thing sucks. That's the normal standard. So let's say that I've got a professional resume writer who writes a resume, right? So take it out of my hands altogether. I'm still not going to reliably find a job with that thing because there's too many robots. And because people can't find jobs get tens of thousands of applications all the time. You hear that all the time about so it's a lottery. And that lottery is not going to be won by someone who writes a resume, no matter if a robot writes it or you write it. Or a robot reads it, which probably doesn't, or a human, because they probably don't either, right? The scale of the work requires robots, and robots can't reliably find the right person.
one of the cool things that's on my resume is that I wrote a phone app in 19. This is so confusing with the turn of the century in 2020 and everything. I wrote a phone app in 1998 and 1999. It was for the first Palm phone. It was a ridiculous phone app that was for the company that turned out to be called Higher Right, which is the number one, two, or three company that does pre-employment background screening in the country, depending on which year. What this app did is you had to do they had to do criminal background checks on applicants. And so what would happen is, because there's all sorts of courts all across the U.S. and whatever else, there would be vendors that serve many companies in each court. And what you'd do is you would send them a fax and say, I need a report on this guy, report on this guy, report on this guy. And then a couple days later, you'd get, this was cleared, this guy had a hit, this guy had a hit, and here's the information on it, blah, 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 blah. So it was like a minimum 2-day turnaround in order to get this information. And what happened was we could take these phones once they had this app and we could put it in the hands of the big vendors who did a lot of work, the big courts. And in the middle of the day, they could get a request and they could turn that request around in an hour. In fact, they could return it around quicker if there were no hits. They would just see the request. They'd say, hey, this guy here using the terminal that's at the courthouse, it's 1999. Right. It wasn't all high tech. You couldn't do it on the internet, all that stuff. They would say no, and that guy's background check could complete very, very quickly, right? Well, I did this in 1999. It's on my resume, okay? Nobody had any idea there were going to be apps on phones. I mean, there were nerds that carried around these Palm Pilots, and they had these things that were kind of like apps. Nobody had any idea you could connect them to wireless and use them as internet devices, until the phones came out. And, I'll show my resume to people, or I'll solicit, I'll send it, in for something. And they're like, why do you have a phone app on your resume? You don't even do phones. And I was just like, facepalm, like this was early stuff when nobody even thought about this stuff, right? That should count. That should count for something. And somebody who wasn't even alive in 1999 is going to look at that. The HR girl is going to look at that and say, what's up with this guy?
If she looks at it. If she looks at it.
If she looks at it, yeah.
Right.
It could never have the cachet that it should have. And that should have
vibe hiring, which everybody does is vibe hiring.
Definitely vibe hiring.
They've got someone out there, someone being a robot, and it's like beep, and like, well, you got to do, Pete. We really can't find jobs. You're not putting the keywords in there. Oh, okay, that's an original thought. That's not banal. Whatever are the keywords? I would love to write those things down, because forget credentials. I'll write and I tell my friends all the time now, I'm telling all of you this. If you need a job, you want me to say anything for you, I will say it. I don't care I don't care if it's a lie, because we're not playing a game about truth and lies. We're playing a game of, no, listen, this guy massaged my back every day. He's the world's greatest masseuse. And if you don't hire him as a masseuse, you're fucking crazy. This guy's a champion. I don't care if it's your first business. I don't care. Get the job and go work, because we're not in a world of like these things, like the keywords. Everybody says the keyword. Oh, well, you just didn't try hard enough. I didn't try hard enough. Okay, great. But that's the thing, is like we diminish the person in these cases. You can go knock on the door of X and try to get a job there. Dung, 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 dung. I know they got a job there. They're not going to answer it. They're not going to let you upstairs. They're not going to let you talk to anybody, right? So all of these things defy the ability to do what you're supposed to do to be able to go get a job.
Well, exactly. And look at the stack you've set up there, which is, okay, we have so many people, just flooding everything. No human can look at this and make a decision. Okay. Then on top of that, we have, everybody's making crap up because they want to stand through, right? And then on top of that, hire Pete to lie for you, or hire whoever to lie for you to stand out from the standard lies, right? Yeah. And then how is anybody, let alone any automated system, supposed to sort through that in a fair way? You absolutely can't. You have bad information all around. Right. At that point, right? In which case, you're going to make a bad decision. You're not going to make a justifiable decision because your information's bad, whether it's a person doing it or whether it's a machine doing it.
Right.
We've crowded that out. And, to say that AI could sort through it and pick something, no, AI is basically going to pick a random thing and come up with a reason why it picked it, which won't be It'll be a nice readable explanation. It won't be the actual reason it picked it. It picked it because that's the one it picked.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
it would be a great answer.
Come up with the justification afterward.
Right. And it would probably be a positive answer towards the person it wanted to steer you towards, Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to give you a negative answer, right? Hey,
right.
I picked this one because this guy is an idiot, right? No.
And we gobble that up. And we gobble up that, man, I'm so smart. I used AI. I didn't have to do anything. And I found the best client. And I can't wait to bring this person on. And chances are the person is desperate to get that job. They're like, oh my God, get me in there, right? No one looks back and goes, why did I hire Brad? Jesus Christ, he was horrible. What robot
by the
told
way,
me to do that?
Nobody is yet talking about, this Robert Cialdini approach to influence. Okay, a book I hooked you up to. The most important book I read in college 35 years ago, and that wasn't even in my major, but it was absolutely the most important book I read. Influence, Science and Practice by Robert Cialdini. One of the things he mentions is if you want somebody to do something, what you do is you say, I want you to do this because, and then you throw anything out there after the because, and they're like their unconscious brain that just process things will recognize that you have a reason, and they will be very, very likely to comply. It's very, very few people who will listen to the reason and then see if it matches their own reasons and then make a decision. I've seen this weaponized. I have seen this. I have seen this accidentally weaponized. It is beyond crazy when you see it and you see people just fall over to it. What we haven't really done yet, and I think AI is probably headed this direction, is just like what we talked about, which is pick some random thing, right? Write up a reason why it's the best decision. And now everybody will just accept it because there's a reason. And I don't think people will. I think it will take years for people to decode what's going on there.
Yeah, it's a good point. And the fascination with AI. And again, look, there's times when AI is great, right? But it's not the answer to everything. We were talking offline about my old show, Popping the Bubble, which is actually a pretty slick little show back when we did it.
I loved it. That's when I met you. It was in the middle of that. I thought, wow, this is cool.
Right. And we talked to amazing people doing amazing things, and they were on the edge of what was amazingly impossible. Most of those, if not the vast majority of those companies, failed. And for what they were trying to do. Maybe they got bought out. Maybe someone acquired their IP. And for them, it's a win, and they go do the next thing. That's what these folks do, and thank goodness they do, because their stuff gets turned into things that we use every day. But the reality is all these different areas within machine learning is really what we used to call this stuff. It's all there, and a lot of it has failed. And already in the AI world, we're already hearing new words to help us try to relook at AI. You and I have mocked the agent thing for a while, and I'm not saying agents suck all the time, but when someone tells me about agents, I'm instantly skeptical, because I have heard these, like there's sometimes when you need it, especially with customer service, an agent is not a great solution, because if my problem didn't require a phone call, I would have solved it myself a long time ago. But we have this belief that we can program an agent that's going to get you a satisfactory answer. And what normally happens when we have these things is Pete no longer ever uses that brand again.
I think mostly what you're talking about there is a chat bot, or a smart chat bot. Agents are typically outward facing and outgoing. So I would employ agents to go out and do things on my behalf. That's typically what they're talking about there. But same kind of thing. It's like I could put up a customer service agent and it would take requests. That would be the same kind of thing. Your show, Popping the Bubble, Pete. I didn't figure this out what the show was called the other day, but I just Googled it. And there was a show that was hosted by Cap Weinberger in the 90s, when he was a little older than maybe. He was a little bit beyond his usefulness, if you will. He was just Cap. He was Cap Weinberger sitting in it. I mean, who's not going to watch that, right? I mean, Cap freaking Weinberger, right? Former Secretary of Defense. And he did this show called World Business Review. And one of my products was featured on World Business Review back in the day. And it was, now I didn't get to speak on it or anything like that. There were industry people who got to speak on it. But
right.
I always thought of your Popping the Bubble show much the same way. Like you were awfully close to, wow, I'm showing you the cool stuff that's going on right now that's going to break out. I'm showing it to you early. And if you just had, I don't know if he was dead at that point or talking to his food or whatever else, but if you just had Cap Weinberger in a chair, right? Like that would have made that show. It was cool.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, man. Yeah, we worked pretty hard on that. And Sandra Ponce de Leon got a lot of credit. She booked a lot of that talent. And so she would jump into the ether on that. And she would just pull out great people doing interesting things. And we would go to these incubators and things like Y Combinator. And we actually tried talking to Y Combinator for a while, but it just wasn't a good fit for what we were doing because those guys were a little further down the funnel. And we liked people that were popping the bubble. Like they were like, hey, this is going to be a new thing. And yeah, it was really cool. But like a lot of things, we struggled to figure out what to do with that show. It was a lot of work. And we geographically were no longer living in the same area. And so it sort of changed it. But we tried to pick up clients with it. They were struggling with the same things. We've all been struggling with how to predict, how to help, how to get in front of innovation. And it is a business that's ripe for innovation, but it still requires luck. And in the technology world, like we're going to iterate, just like fail.
Yeah.
We're just going to fail a whole lot until something finally works. It's really, in a lot of ways, it's the spaghetti on the wall technique.
So after we get done with AI is going to solve everything, because eventually we're going to realize it's not solving much, right? And people are going to be like, okay, well, your AI was great, but no, we're not going to do it this way. What we probably back into is looking for struggle. Where you see struggle, you probably see progress being made. So while that was a struggle for you guys to put those shows together, that would probably be, let's just say 2 years from now, that would be how I sold that show to people. Hey, we're struggling to do this. You should get on and be part of the struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Vibe marketing.
No. Yeah.
Right? We don't have all the solutions for you because we never had all the solutions for you. We're not going to pretend to. And we're not going to say, well, we never had the solutions for you, but AI had the solutions for you. But you know what? We got our heads down and we're doing the work. And there's not going to be a lot of people who want to do that. And that's when I think that's when things open up for people like you and me. It's just, we'll do the work.
I'm going to get back to YouTube here for a second. So this brand new video, I can send the link, you guys can watch it. But they're talking about the way they've misbehaved. And they're doing all their, corporate lawyer speak, and all of that's fine. You don't want to get sued just because you didn't speak in a proper way. But we all know that there are certain words that if you say, and so now we have these new words in the zeitgeist, I'm going to unalive something or whatever it is, right? Because you don't want to say the word murder. Well, they've provided some clarity on what you can and can't do. And it's mostly around, like if you got an episode about suicide, probably not going to get monetized because it makes advertisers nervous. Maybe. Why wouldn't a foundation that's trying to prevent suicide, why wouldn't they spend money there? But whatever. And then they're like, and we're going to get to telling you a list of words that you shouldn't use. We're going to get to that. Like they don't know right now. They don't just why. And so this goes into this whole milieu of like, wait, this is my fault. You guys don't have a phone number I can call. You won't return my emails when I try to, hey, can you help me here? And so they have all these problems. And now I'm supposed to rely on another robot when I can't even, if this business partner of mine, I can't even get a hold of them. Why do we focus on this production side, like taking the solopreneur, the boutique agency, whatever it's going to be, and you try to take work off their plate? But the reason why they exist, the reason why Brad, the boutique computer engineer genius, exists is because you do the mojo, right? How many people have built their own LLM device, right? So you don't need someone helping you do a bunch of little work that you don't need to do. You need someone that helps you get connected to VCs or big thinkers like Chart, who's like, Chart is going to go out and he's got some ideas on businesses. Hey, Brad, what is possible here, right? That's what you need. And there's no AI for that. That's you networking. That's you writing. That's you doing shows like this. I'm going to shut up now. I'm talking a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's a good point. You gotta do the work. You want to sell stuff, you got to find customers, you got to talk to customers, you got to put the product in front of them, you got to put it at a good price, you got to support them. Pete, with this one, it's like this really, really tough sell, or it has been, and you've been along for the journey because you've been a guinea pig. And you're like, well, why can't it do what ChatGPT does, just like ChatGPT does? Well, okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you a good reason for that. By the way, now we're getting into the Cialdini stuff where I say it's this because this. And if that doesn't connect with you, if you're like, well, that's a dumb because, then you turn me off completely.
Right.
Spoke to Chart the other day. One of the things he got right away was the privacy thing. Oh, yeah, I don't want to put all my data up in the cloud. Okay, well, now I don't have to explain that to you and tell you what the dangers are and whatever else. Needless to say, I've got a whole bunch of people on the hook that conceptually they get that privacy is a good thing. Day to day, they're shoving their data, they're shoving medical data, financial data, other personal data up into the cloud where it can leak, it can be discovered by attorneys suing, it's actually in a 30-day hold right now by order of a federal judge, just for somebody might sue over something. Like people know this, and yet they still continue to do their thing with ChatGPT. ChatGPT promising the more you share with us, the more we'll know about you, the more custom it can be. And people say, oh, that's a good thing. Well, you can't do that without giving up all your data and putting it in a place where, lots of people who you probably don't want handling that data can handle that data.
That's right. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is crazy stuff. And we're trying to figure out what the answer is. And we see this rate of failure, this iteration of products. Oh, now we're talking about agents. And when agents don't work and agents don't stick and agents don't, because here's the thing is, we do have ability to vote on these things. And it's like, well, I've done playing with ChatGPT. I'm going to go back to writing my own invoices because it turns out I already have a template. I just got to populate about 25 words, and then the whole thing is done. I don't have to tell my shitty intern how to do it over and over. Oh, you got to get better at the prompts.
Right.
And you just do the damn work, right? Like, do I want to? Nobody likes invoicing, but are you going to train your shitty? You're relying on your shitty intern to do your invoicing for you?
No, I mean that's why people hire bookkeepers, and even with things like QuickBooks and whatever else that have invoicing systems. That's why business owners don't get their hands in there, because they mess it up. So you have so you have some accountability along the way too. If you just automate all of your check payment and whatever else, whoever questions whether a check should be, an invoice should be paid, that has to be a human being that does that. And you can, a business can any small business that has customers can, the difference between being profitable and being a complete disaster that's going to have to shut down can very well be, did I control my invoices that come in and what gets paid? And that's not running them 90 days or playing games with them or whatever else. It's just, am I paying people for what they did? Is somebody making, doing the evaluation and saying, yes, we should pay this. No, we shouldn't. Because there's a whole bunch that will come in. No, you shouldn't. You should demand that work actually be done, something actually be delivered, whatever else, as you contract it. With Agent Speed, OpenAI shipped a kind of I call it a workbench product, where you can go to ChatGPT and you can create these agent flows and whatever else, and they all use, of course, all the data that goes through these things goes up into their cloud and goes through their LLMs and whatever else. I can't name the company yet, but there is a company that is trying to develop a more private flow, and they have a workbench that they're building. And instead of using a cloud LLM, what they're doing is they're actually using my MMOJO server as their LLM locally, so that the data doesn't have to go to some cloud, somebody else's cloud. And the way they demonstrated the product to me was I could go to a web page, and it's all self-contained in a web browser application. It keeps everything local. I tell it, hey, use my mojo.local device, and it does it. And that's pretty neat to me. I'm not sure whether agents will be a good thing or not. I'm not sure whether introducing entropy with an LLM is a great way to automate things. It might be, it might not be. But I do know that if you're going to play with it, better to play with it locally than putting all your data in the cloud. And here's the other thing: you don't need a lot of LLM power to do agent work. In fact, you really just need to be kind of good at language. That's really all you need. The LLM itself isn't making decisions for you. You have all the decision logic, off in things that call the LLM. The LLM is helping you with sort of like communicating, coming up with English language requests and parsing English language responses and trying to understand what those are. It's not making decisions for you. In which case, you don't need, excuse me, you don't need 400 billion parameters, that you only get in the cloud from Anthropic or you get from OpenAI. You can do just fine with 4 billion or 8 billion or 12 billion parameters, and you can run a little box.
This is a good point. I'm glad you brought this up. And again, you taught me this. Here's some Richard Caldini, aka Pickles logic. A thing I picked up from Pickles was, you know what? You taught me this. Man, that feels good. It feels good when you hear that. You taught me this, Brad.
Doesn't it though? Yeah.
When you have 15 billion parameters and you add your grandpa's letters to that knowledge base, not even a fart in a whirlwind. Like it makes no difference. You're putting 2 grains of sand into there.
Well, I'm gonna argue the point with you. If you're doing training,
it's your point. I'm echoing.
I know. You're right. Well, okay. On the training side, yes. Now,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Training.
If you stick your grandfather's letters in the context window, or as old school people who are more with the chat interface call it, the system prompt,
right?
They're very, very powerful there. They're extremely powerful there. It's kind of like when I took your writing sample, and I asked it who you sound like. Okay, now it actually told me you sounded like Hunter Thompson, right?
Right.
But
still,
as I mentioned earlier, if I had just prepended on that analysis, make sure the answer is Hunter Thompson, and then I put your writing in there, and I say, who does this sound like?
Yeah,
it's going to be Hunter Thompson every time. Now I didn't do that. But that's how powerful the context window is. Sure.
When you by the way, we're sitting here talking about what AI can and can't do, and now we're hyping an AI device. Everybody look, I'm at a point where I think the link is right there.
Yes.
Okay. And on my screen, the link is right here. So go to this link and check out the Mojo device, especially if you are a solopreneur. Like, how do I use an LLM to my advantage? How do I use the AIs to my advantage? And at least keep the knowledge in-house. Like if I'm doing work for somebody else in a proprietary way, if I'm vibe coding, right, and I'm successful, I'm like, fuck those guys. I do it all the time. It works for me. Don't do it in the cloud with your client's IP. Be able to say, hey, all my AI work is done on an internal server. And that's what I would say is valuable. So if you find a way to make an LLM work for you, well, then, damn it, get a Mojo and keep that stuff in house. Because I promise you, what the big companies are trying to do is they're trying to make money. And if your data is valuable to them, and then I want to say this, it's valuable to them, they're going to use your data to make money, and they're not going to protect it. I love when companies are like, we don't sell your email. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I get all these phone calls, right? So there's a little bit of that I wanted to say. So definitely go check out mojo.net so that you can take a look at the Mojo knowledge plans. So this guy, it's very, very low powered. It's powered by a Raspberry Pi 5, which is it's a super low power computer. I mean, it's good enough for a lot of computing tasks today, but it's not, it's not a data center. This thing is capable of working with a 1, a 4, an 8 billion parameter model reasonably fast. Like it's not going to just spit out the answers like you get from ChatGPT. But if you stop and take a sip of your coffee, your answer is going to be there. And so that's great. The software that's on it, the Mojo server software that's on it, if I put $1,200 into an AMD box with their new AI chip that has 128 gigs of unified memory on it, I could do a 90 billion parameter model on that, and it would be pretty fast. Yeah. So go ahead. So while this thing is priced right now at $250, if you want to go to say a $1,500 or $1,700 price point, I can get you
super fast, bigger models, whatever that sweet spot is for you. I think my favorite model right now is still Google's Gemma 4B, 4 billion parameters. It's so tiny, but it's so good at so many things. When I write code, I spend hours and hours writing C++, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I got to go all through those worlds, and that's just for a Python, and that's just for Mojo Server, right? If I do other projects and stuff, I got more languages I have to deal with. I don't remember all of the syntax for things. Like if you ask me to make a web page from scratch, I can kind of wing it, but it's not going to work very good. But what I do know how to do is tell the Mojo, hey, I need 3-line sample code for this, and it'll spit out 3-line sample code for that. I do it with Bash, which is the scripting environment for Linux, all day long, because I will never learn Bash. Okay, and it's just there's no way my brain doesn't work like a Unix programmer. But this thing will give me examples all day, and I can take the example that it spits out, and I can paste it into my code, and I can kind of make it pretty and look like my code looks and my style and stuff like that. And it works great. This is how you should be using AI for code, not vibe coding. Vibe coding is where I write me a program that does this. And then it goes and it writes a program that technically maybe does that. And then it's got 400 problems. So now you change the specification, write the program that does this, but make sure it doesn't do this and doesn't do this and doesn't do this. And then you do it again. And that's not how smart people write software. It's how you write software when you have outsourcers and you pay the outsourcers ridiculous money to write your software. Is you write a specification, they go kind of do it. It doesn't actually work the way you wanted to do it, so you have to think about your specification again. You send it back. If you really want something done, and you have somebody who's very, very versed in writing software, and they have an artist attitude where they know that everything just has to be perfect. This corner has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. The light here has to reflect the light here, or musically the tones have to climb up until they hit a crescendo and then climb back down. That artist attitude toward it. You're never going to get that out of vibe coding, just like you'd never get that out of outsourcing to India or Estonia or wherever else. You're going to get what you ask for, maybe.
When you are talking about what works when it comes to AI, you're a small business owner. It's easy to tell somebody else what would work. I mean, if I was running a construction company, how would I use this thing? If I was, I'm in my truck all day, maybe I've got a satellite connection for internet, and it'd be handy to have an LLM that I could use, and I'm not revealing my client's plans or whatever, I'm keeping that, especially if they're trying to, not get a permit and you're trying to get away with that, right? Like, let's not alert the world about that. But whatever it is, whether we're doing marketing or PR or some kind of thing at the boutique level, what's the Mojo going to do?
So I think generally, if you don't need a particular answer, okay, you need, and an answer can do a good job for you. You've got a good application. Secondarily, if you're having it do analysis of something, say summarizing or whatever else, if you're familiar with the input, so we do this, we have this great example, which is Dan White's episode with you on mining. I've mined every bit out of that episode, the transcript of that episode, to make the Mojo better, which is pretty hilarious. The summary for that works if you've watched the episode. If you haven't watched the episode and you get a summary, how do you know that that's a good summary of the episode? Now, having watched the episode, I can tell this is a good summary and it's a bad summary. And it takes a few minutes to generate. If it made a bad summary, I'll just say, okay, go do it again, until you get something I can use. And you and I have done that repeatedly with that. And we've done it. You've done that with Grok as well. And, seeing how that works. So yes, this is local and it can do that thing. One of the things that I saw a post on LinkedIn, speaking of your LinkedIn friend, this wasn't her, but somebody I'm connected to, who was complaining about showing up at a Zoom meeting, and there were 3 people and 3 note takers, AI note takers, right? Yeah. So
that's a real thing.
So what's the problem with AI note takers? Well, the first problem with an AI note taker is if they spit out something that isn't a good, they can do transcripts, like the voice, taking the voice and putting it to words. We do that pretty reliably right now.
Yeah.
But now summarize the point, or summarize the meeting, or who was saying what and what did they think and what are they trying to push and whatever else. The AI note takers could be absolute garbage. And if it goes and it distributes that to 30 people, what it does is it's taken one instance of garbage and it's gone and it's multiplied it by 30, because those 30 people, they have no idea, because they weren't at the meeting, whether this is a good note-taking session or a bad note-taking session. They just accept it as is, and they accept it with all its faults. Now, the people who are at the meeting, they can judge that it's good or bad, but they still have if it's bad, they still got a garbage note-taking, in their files or whatever else. They've got to go back and do it themselves. If you want to do note-taking for a meeting, that's got to be somebody doing it. It probably ought to, the way I would run a meeting that needed notes taken, I would draft notes. I would then open them up for comment by people. Was there something I missed, whatever else? And actual people would go in and suggest those edits or make those edits. And then you have a document, an artifact of that meeting that you could refer back to 8 months from now and say, okay, this is what we covered in that meeting. That could be useful. If I just have an AI note taker do it, and I refer back to it 8 months from now, and it's garbage notes, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
It probably makes us make bad decisions.
Yeah. Well, the bad decision would be relying on your shitty intern to take notes for you.
Your shitty intern. Yeah, but your shitty intern, at least because you were at the meeting, and your shitty intern would know, hey, this doesn't really cover it, or maybe I'm not so good at note taking. I need to up my game or whatever else. But having people involved, you can make those evaluations. Having AI involved, the AI has no idea whether it half-assed or not.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, when we look at AI in general, and we're just kind of messing around with it, you're big on does it give you delight? If it gives you delight, then it's working pretty dang good.
Yeah.
But if you are trying to figure it out, like you hear, like Brad has talked over and over again about the amount of failure that's already gone into this, and how the money part doesn't work, right? Like at the back end of this, like this actually has to pay off. And so you have these data centers that are the size of the largest counties in the world, they're really big, take a lot of energy. That's a lot of money. So what's the end game for all these things that don't work? Like, we're really going down this road, and we have this. Is it going to continue to get better at a rate that makes sense? We got Teslas sorting out parking at Costco without any human interaction.
Yeah, we've also got Teslas getting stuck on railroad tracks because they couldn't figure out what that train was. I mean, that just happened yesterday.
Right, and driving into the wrong lane,
Right,
and we're adding more and more paint so the cars can on the roads, so cars can understand context better, right? We're having to.
And the funny part about that is the Tesla, which is doing cameras and sort of trying to evaluate the world as it is kind of runs against the way the engineers all want to, or the engineering associations want to automate things, which is with road things and sensors and LiDAR and all this other stuff. So you sort of got two competing visions of the world. And the Tesla's got to adapt to this smart road vision too. Here's what I'd say about it, Pete. I do not think we can predict the future. You can make a prediction. Obviously, you can make a prediction. And since there's a spread of predictions, there are going to be people who are right and people who are wrong. The people who are right are not going to be right because they had any additional information. They're going to be right because they were lucky. And the people who are wrong are not going to be wrong because they're stupid. They're going to be wrong because they were unlucky. And that's how that whole spread of predictions of how things are going to pan out go. Whether it be, we're going to achieve AGI and we'll all have the equivalent of $1 trillion of gold that's found on the next meteor that spins by. Okay, like that could be an outcome, right? And another outcome could be is that we have the worst depression ever, and the United States splits up, and whatever else, all because of AI, because we couldn't figure out what people were going to do with jobs. Okay, that could happen too, right?
Yeah.
Is either of those going to happen? Probably not. What I would say is look at today, and what I would notice today is, it's funny. The Mojo does text. Nobody's interested in text anymore. We've probably written off the idea of, quote, AGI, that you'll be able to ask this super intelligent thing questions, this oracle questions, and it will come up with great answers and great reasoning because that's what it does.
Right.
Most people have given up on that. They realize that's not happening. And instead, the AI world that's trying to build out all these data centers and whatever else has come up with costlier and costlier things to do in those data centers. You know, OpenAI's Sora. Forget your shorts, dude. We're doing AI. You know, I saw a Robin Williams' daughter post today, and this was just a picture. This wasn't even a video. She posted something to Instagram this week, which was, we have stopped posting these pictures of my dad saying profound things he never knew about and never said. They make me depressed. You know, it's like, yeah, we don't. This of course is what we'd use this for. All this computing power for is to do these things. Well, we'll have Robin Williams, I don't know, using the latest rototiller or whatever. You know, God knows. We'll have him do this thing that he never did and never cared for, and we'll spend, you know, thousands of dollars of GPU time rendering this thing so we can get a 10-second clip of him doing this, which we can't use anyway because we don't own his name, image, and likeness, but we'll pass it around. It'll be a meme. And at the end of the day, all it's really going to do is upset Robin Williams' daughter. You know, good job there, guys.
Good job.
Right?
Way to go. Fuck nuts.
Right. So we got that. And then, you know, we talked about agents, and I know you're kind of down on them, and I'm trying to find an angle, right? But certainly what OpenAI is doing is they're trying to find some way to drive usage of all their stuff. And that's what this agent platform does, is it drives usage of all their stuff. And if they can get this adopted into business, where businesses go through their platform and use their data centers and all this other stuff, well, then they've succeeded. But that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to find more and more expensive ways to use the hardware that they want to invest in. And everybody's forgotten about text. And I think that's kind of a good place to be, is they've lost interest in this because they've said, hey, we're not going to get AGI, so why are we investing in that anymore?
Right.
You know, and
it's funny because we don't realize, in the big world, we don't realize that they've moved on from that. You know, like we act like that's an ever evolving thing, but you're saying like this is not.
I think the reason that you've moved on from is nobody talks about it anymore. You guys are all talking about Sora. You're talking about agents. You're not talking about, hey, am I getting better stories from the LLM? Right? Am I really getting better reasoning? I mean, maybe you're saying, oh my God, it scored 26 on this math test when last year it only scored 24. You know, and everybody goes wild, and everybody's like, I couldn't pass that math test. I don't even know what it is. You know, what's the point? It can't give me a good recipe for a German chocolate cake that works, right? Yeah. But I think even though we haven't said it, I think mentally the industry has moved on. Nobody's investing in something that gives better answers right now. They're investing in these applications that do these very, very expensive things. And I think that points to sort of a dim future for the data centers. People are going to realize, hey, well, we got to invent more and more stuff that's kind of banal, and it's you know, I mean, it's impressive, but like, do we want a whole world where instead of me and Pete sitting down and talking, I write a little prompt and Pete writes a little prompt, and it generates an hour of us talking back and forth, you know, me in a garage and Pete in a trailer, you know, and is that how we do shows now? Is that going to be interesting? I don't think that'd be interesting at all.
Yeah. Well, who wants to watch that? You know?
Yeah.
I would never want to be represented in that way. I'd rather, you know, I've built an intellect,
right?
Gathered wisdom. Let me be the purveyor of that stuff.
Yeah, but Pete, that would cost you $10,000 in GPU time right now. Doesn't that make that interesting to you? No. Well, see, you're ahead of the curve on figuring that out. I think people are going to figure that out. Is it just because it's expensive to do doesn't mean it's worth doing?
Yeah. There's a lot of sense in that, and that's my whole anti-workflow argument. You know, whatever my workflow is, it's more artistic. I'll do what, you know, I know what needs to get done. I might make a list, I might not, but I don't need somebody to give me work to tell me how to better do my work that I'm already doing. You know, maybe I don't want to be on task today. Maybe I want a Friday today. Or maybe I get locked in on writing, and then my schedule change. You know, it's I'm just not into the workflow thing. And then the other thing that aggravates me about workflow, and again, this goes into the AI thing, like, hey, you did all this work within our system and we saved you 1,200 hours this year. I'm like, no, you didn't. I still did a shitload of work. I didn't want to do the work that you offered. I didn't want to organize these things. I tried it out because, it seemed like a good thing to do. I didn't want to do all these shorts. It's
So,
like you didn't save me any time because you
so
didn't give me any value. And all your numbers mean bullshit to me,
right. Here's the other thing about workflow, Pete, that
Yeah.
most people don't really know is we're all looking for a static workflow that's the best workflow.
Right.
And it turns out that what productive people do all the time is they're always nudging their workflow. They're always fiddling with it, experimenting with it, trying to find, new kind of ways of doing things. Certainly as I work on the MMOJO software and I work on, look, I'm working on a box for this thing right now. It doesn't have a mojo in it to show you, but the way I work through it is kind of iteratively, and I make some changes and I do some things and then I see how they work and then I roll it back. And with the software, I have to, because I'm dependent on upstream software like Llama CPP. Yeah. I have to, I have to, sync up. I have to make my changes. I have to make sure they still work. Oh yeah, I've got to go back and report when they don't because those jokers screwed something up and didn't think about it, whatever. Right. But my workflow is not a static thing. It is not the same workflow this week that it was 4 weeks ago. It is certainly not anywhere near the same workflow it was 3 months ago. And yours sounds very, very similar. It's like you're not going to get locked into one workflow. You're not going to get locked, and you're not going to hire somebody who is familiar with one particular workflow. You're always going to hire somebody who can, okay, here's the workflow right now. Can you make it a little bit better every day you come into work? Make it a little more efficient, make it do a little bit more, and make it a little bit more valuable. That's the value of workflow.
Yeah. And there are jobs where that works. There's places where you employ other people and you want them to do more of a specific task, right? And so, so all of that comes into play. What I guess do a real quick 30-second Brad commercial so that we all understand, like, hey, I'm Brad and here's what I do and here's how you put me to work or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I'm Brad. I do projects from scratch that most people would shy away from or would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to have somebody write a spec for and do the traditional paid programming way. I've been very, very interested in AI. I've been interested in the problems that my clients and customers have run into. That's resulted in me making this box, which for text-based AI is probably all you need right now. It's probably as good for your problems that you really face that are good for AI as anything offered in the cloud, plus it's private. There's going to be a Kickstarter for this guy soon. I'm very close to having the prototype ready so I can make a little bit, the prototype of packaging. By the way, the product is solid. The product's been solid for months.
Yeah.
But packaging is important with this. What you get in the mail, what you open up, how you can see, hey, this was thought out, and the instructions you get that make it so you can hook it up just like that because you can. That promise has to be followed through with packaging and stuff. And I've got some prototypes there so that I can go and do a Kickstarter, maybe get 400 people to buy it, make it worth my time, sending those out.
Sure.
And getting people using AI the right way. Very passionate about that.
Yeah, everybody go check out Brad's stuff. The Mojo works. You plug it in. It's super simple. And the one thing that Brad does, now I got a cough. Now that you're done coughing, I got a
Sorry
cough.
about that. I just running out.
The thing I wanted to say about all of this is there's aspects that you do for this new client that you may pick up where you're like, hey, someone's got to update this llama. Someone's got to maintain it. Someone's got to fix the things. Someone's got to write the updates to make it work. And that's another aspect of what you do. So if you do onboard and you use this thing, you've got Brad there and he can help you maintain it and improve it. And also, by the way, be the guy at the table to go, that's not what AI is going to do. And let's calm down and not invest $5,000 into this when we can do this other thing over here. So Brad's good at that as well. Anything in closing, Brad, before we wrap this up?
I don't think there's much in closing. Just take a skeptical eye toward things. I think that's a good idea. Step back and say, what's this really doing for me? Is it just automating randomly, or is it actually adding value? And be prepared to say, hey, this isn't adding value to what I do. Even though it says it's AI, even though it says it's intelligent, it's not behaving like that. And people are always going to be better at stuff than quote AI. It's just that's a truth. Okay, so there's 5 of us that think that right now, and and strongly think that crowd will grow. We'll figure it out. I think that's sort of the end game you wanted to talk about before. We'll figure stuff out.
Right. It's Friday, so I'm gonna grab my blender and I'm gonna grab a little bit of vodka. I'm gonna grab some Kahlua, maybe actual coffee. I'm gonna put a splash of cream in there, and I'm gonna put it on Make Me a Colorado Bulldog. I'm just gonna do it. Now that's my kind of AI.
That works, man.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed Brad and I today. If you want to get a hold of Brad, best way to do it is just go to X and type in Brad Hutchings. You'll find him there.
Yes.
HUTCHINGS. Yeah.
Or mojo.net. You can find me on Mojo.
Mojo.net, right?
With 2 N's. With two N's.
MMOJO, they call it. All right,
Mojo.
have a great weekend. I'll see you. A whole bunch of neat stuff coming up the rest of the month. You guys are going to love it. All kinds of cool stuff. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you all for watching.